Joining us now for War Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is the lady whose family seems to have taken a clear decision on who becomes the next Awujale Obijele.
We're not involved. Good morning. Good morning. How are you, Dr. Rubin?
I'm good.
Good morning, Ayo.
On the light end, I hope you are one of the real Ijebus, because there's now a contest as to who is real and who is not real.
Thoroughbred, 100%, both parents. You can trace our lineage all the way back. All the way back.
To the fashion Bua house, right?
No, Fidipote is our own. That's why I said we're not involved in this drama.
Oh, so you're even the same house with Wasiu?
Allegedly.
What do you mean allegedly?
He says he's from Fushembua.
No. But initially, there was some talk about it being Fidipote when he became...
It was the late Awujale, Kabiesi Adetono,
Blessed Mary,
who said he was from Fidipote.
Yes.
He says he's not one of you. He's now from Fushembua.
No, but
from
Jadiara.
No,
said it's not him.
Please,
we have to continue with our story.
No, this matter is very important because the presidential spokesperson was the one that released this statement on behalf of the Fushembua family. For the very first time, the spokesperson to President Tinubu became the spokesperson of the Fushembua house. Because
he's an Ijebu man. He's a bona fide Ijebu son.
The Awujale did say that he's from the Fidipote house. It was on the basis of that they gave him Omoba.
We can talk about this matter forever and ever. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. We'll still... I told you it's not our own. We know who our family members are. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. Good morning to you viewers. Okay, let's start. Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuggar, has confirmed that the 11 Nigerian soldiers who were aboard that C-130 Hercules aircraft that made that forced landing in Bobo Dioulasso in Burkina Faso earlier this week are still in the country. Now, the official line from the Nigerian Air Force remains that the aircraft was on a ferry mission from Lagos to Portugal when it encountered a technical fault and diverted to Bobo Dioulasso in Burkina Faso for a precautionary landing, emergency landing. Now, in line with the ICAO safety protocols, that is what Nigerian Air Force is saying. However, the Confederation of Sahel States, comprising of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, they have accused Nigeria of violating Burkinabe airspace, and they've called the incident an unfriendly act, and they believe that there is the authority. They've authorized member states to neutralize any type of intruding aircraft. Thankfully, that has not happened, but clearly they are still in detention, as is the aircraft that they came in on. Now, Mali's junta leader, Assimi Goïta, described the entry as defiant of international law in a joint press briefing at the ECOWAS Commission in Abuja on Thursday. Minister Tuggar said that diplomatic talks with Burkinabe leaders, especially Ibrahim Traoré, are ongoing to resolve this situation as quickly as possible. Now, following on from his fact-finding mission to Nigeria's Middle Belt earlier this month, US Rep. Riley Moore says that he is compiling a White House report with recommendations to US President Donald Trump on how best to tackle the violence against Christians in Nigeria. Now, during his visit, you can see some pictures from it here, just behind me. During his visit, he met with Bishops Anagbe and Dugu. He met with the Tortiv and internally displaced people living in camps that have been repeatedly attacked by militants. Now, this is violence that they're victims of, that he calls a genocidal campaign. During an interview with Fox News, though, Moore did say that his report would be coming out. It's going to outline US-Nigerian cooperation to stop these killings of Christians in the Middle Belt and curb terrorism in the Northeast. It's supposed to be due by the end of this month, with a specific briefing to President Trump to follow with those recommendations. So we'll wait to see what he will have to say. Now, staying in the United States, fresh sanctions on three of the Venezuelan president's nephews. Three of them Now, 2 of those 3 who have been sanctioned, have already been convicted of drug offenses. So they've been calling them the narco nephews. Very, very unserious comments there. But essentially, this is what people are saying is a push for America to squeeze Caracas and cut off its financial lifelines. Now, the United States also took aim at Venezuela's oil sector by sanctioning a Panamanian businessman and 6 shipping companies that allegedly moved Venezuelan oils. Now, the sanctions came a day later as the US seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. We talked about that yesterday. That super tanker named Skipper, it has emerged, is reportedly owned and managed by a Lagos-based company, Tomorrow's Global Ventures Limited. That being said, analysts continue to suggest that the oil may be the entire motivation behind the United States hostilities, as Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world at around 303 billion oil barrels, though it only produces 1 million barrels a day. Moving on to our last story, rounding up the World Brief today. Austria's lower house of parliament has passed a law on Thursday prohibiting girls younger than 14 from wearing Islamic headscarves in all schools, with fines for non-compliance ranging from 150 euros to as high as 800 euros. Lawmakers approved the legislation by a large majority, and this comes after a 2019 ban for under 10s that was struck down by the country's constitutional court for discriminating against Muslims. Now, this new bill, which is proposed by the 3-party centrist coalition and backed by the far-right Freedom Party, defines a headscarf as the covering the head in accordance with Islamic traditions. Now, Integration Minister Claudia Pacom has called the practice for minors a symbol of oppression, while NEO's parliamentary leader Yannick Shetty, he says that the hijab, he believes it sexualizes girls. Now, the ban takes effect in February with an initial grace period for education and awareness before fines apply. 12,000 girls are expected to be impacted by the new law over in Austria. But before we come over to you for comments, let's take a look at our newspaper headlines from across Nigeria and indeed the world. Firstly, let's take a look at the front page of This Day. Now, This Day does lead right here in the middle with information that the federal government's launch of Nigeria's first gas trading license and a new clearing and settlement system to boost transparency and investment in the gas sector under President Tinubu's energy agenda. Now, the front page also features this photograph, and it does show a photograph of Senator Jarigbe Agom Jarigbe alongside his wife, Dr. Ofiong Jarigbe. We also have just here the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila. You got the Cross River State Governor, Basiotu, and the Deputy Senate President, also Baral Jibrin, all of them who gathered in Abuja on Tuesday to celebrate Senator Jarigbe Agom Jarigbe's 55th birthday. So very happy birthday to him. Let's take a look at our other newspapers. I believe we've got the Daily Independent up next. We do. Okay, so the Daily Independent today reports that the PDP says it will not beg defecting governors, but it will still reach out to them. Now, the party has blamed these recent defections on long-standing leadership failures and says both the party and the affected governors share responsibility for the crises befuddling the party, especially in Osun and in Rivers State. Now, the Vanguard, let's take a look at what the Vanguard has to offer us this morning. There we go. So the Vanguard does report strong concern over the seizure of this Nigerian-owned supertanker Skipper by the United States Coast Guard. Experts have been warning that the incident highlights gaps in Nigeria's port state control and regulatory oversight. The vessel, linked to allegations of crude theft, piracy, and unauthorized flag use, comes amid reports that Nigeria lost 13.5 million barrels of crude worth $3.3 billion to theft, pipeline sabotage between 2023 and 2024. Let's take a look at the leadership paper this morning. And it does report the good news of Aliko Dangote. Just here, Alhaji Aliko Dangote has launched a 100 billion naira yearly education fund to support 1.3 million students over 10 years. They're targeting STEM students, technical trainees, schoolgirls and teachers, all of them involved. Now, the presidency has praised the initiative as the largest private education support scheme in Nigeria. So huge congratulations to him and all of the beneficiaries. The Guardian this morning does look at this dirty December target. Now, It's believed that it could, this period, this dirty December period, could generate $2 billion, but weak infrastructure, chaotic pricing, and overstretched airports threaten the gains. Now, high costs in Lagos are actually pushing tourists to other destinations. They are more than welcome to come to Ijebu-Ode if they want to have a good time.
Yes,
Just putting it out there. Just putting it out there.
Yes, so.
Punch. Let's take a look at the Punch this morning. The Punch does have the news that the federal government will recruit over 94,000 security personnel. That includes 50,000 police constables and about 14,000 soldiers, all of this to tackle rising insecurity. Officials have been stressing that merit-based selection, proper training and equipment are key to the success of these new appointments. The Daily Trust this morning, let's take a look at what the Daily Trust have for us. Now, amongst all of its stories, one story that picked out is that the EFCC will today arraign the former Labour Minister Chris Ngige over alleged 2.2 billion naira fraud. Also on the front page is reports that the PDP has confirmed the death of Bayelsa Deputy Governor Lawrence Erujakpo. I know that we are still struggling with that with our correspondent in Yenagoa, but that is the news that we're hearing in terms of him after he collapsed in the government house in Yenagoa on Thursday. The party did describe him as a principled, loyal and consistent politician. Shall we take a look at some British papers? Yes. Okay, so on the Times this morning, doctor strikes could cause the NHS to collapse over Christmas as a tidal wave of flu tears through British hospitals. That's what West Streeting, the health secretary, has warned. And then lastly, we've got the Daily Mirror this morning. Let's take a look at the Daily Mirror. And again, World Cup is on the front page. There are reports that football fans across the globe have reacted with fury after the official ticket prices for next year's World Cup were announced, with tickets for the final alone reportedly at £3,000 per ticket. Dr. Rubin, I know that is chicken change to you, so I'll be looking to you to buy my own ticket to the World Cup. Just letting you know, those are your newspaper headlines and your world brief. Love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so, I mean, as a patriot, I want my country to do well. But patriotism does not mean that I should not call my government out.
Agreed.
I think we didn't manage the Burkina Faso incident well. After the release by the Burkina government and the reaction from the Air Force at first was like, oh, there was nothing that happened to it. Then we heard another story like you brought yesterday that they were actually negotiating. Then we heard another story yesterday afternoon at around 12:15, was reported by Business Day, was reported even by The Guardian in the UK, that they had been released. Then we got the confirmation during the press conference with Minister Tuggar that they had not been released.
Yes.
So when they blame us journalists, I'm talking about the government now, of fake news, please, I ask, prior to the clarification by Tuggar, who peddled fake news? Is it not the government? Did the government representative not misrepresent the situation of things in the initial statement released? Because they're so quick to point their accusing fingers at us, but they don't ever take the responsibility when it comes from them. I think it was best we had rather not said anything or allowed the Foreign Affairs Minister to have handled it and spoken about it like he spoke in the press conference. That initial statement that was a counter to what was happening in Burkina Faso that turned out false, and whoever released that statement as at 12:15 yesterday that also turned out false, just put our government in the back. And it's lapses like this people will always capitalize on. This is another low for the government.
All right, let me talk about airfares, because you were saying something around weak infrastructure.
Yes.
That Guardian report on their front page
On the
for
Guardian.
Dirty December, the target $2 billion could be realized. And you know, for me, I've been talking about this because I think we have a prime opportunity, tourism-wise, in Nigeria to capitalize on what the private sector largely has driven. And I recall when I was saying that when there was a special task force, and I was saying, oh, it's a good idea. Some people were like, just leave the private sector to continue what they started, because unfortunately, government involvement doesn't really all go well. But I do believe that if we're going to maximize this, we do need government response to the great work, and I emphasize that the private sector has driven largely in the last few years. years. So what are some of the quick wins? You know, because if you're going to have a plan, even though this is 2 weeks into December already, but you know, the first port of call, your airports, there are little policies and management decisions that can be made to ensure that as people come in and travel out, it's a conducive environment and a welcoming environment to present the country in the best light and to encourage more patronage for next year's Dirty December. We talked about airfares at length yesterday, and we continue to talk about it. I know there are now conversations around should there be slashes in taxes during the December period just to encourage airline operators to reduce the cost. Should the FCCPC step in and see where there is taking advantage of consumers to ensure that we get the good options when it comes to airfares. And then within the cities, traffic management. I hope that they will deploy more officials on ground to ensure, because some people swear never to come back when they experience what is the traffic in some of the metropolitan cities where major of these activities will be happening. So we are hoping that they would dispatch a number of officers. And then also, I'm happy that the coastal road will be opened during this period. Exactly. It would help to ease traffic as well. So some of those things, I believe we can still hit those targets, largely first by the resilience of the private sector, but the government can also play its own part to ensure that they help them in actualizing this.
Okay, quickly. President Trump is determined to continue to put Maduro and Venezuela under pressure.
Yes.
Even threatening to go to war, having declared the airspace in that country closed. So you are right that the main issue is oil. And after all, the United States, I said, is seizing the oil. As for Nigeria and Burkina Faso, there is nothing that diplomacy cannot resolve. Yeah. At the end of the day, when you violate the airspace, well, you can pay fines, your equipment can be detained, but at the end of the day, I think diplomacy will prevail, despite the conflict between Nigeria and the AES states. And, you know, the Minister Tuggar made it very clear that this has nothing to do with Nigerians' intervention in Republic of Benin. I hope you can believe him. Finally, the story that appeals to me is the Dangote story. Now, Dangote yesterday launched is it 1 trillion over a period of a decade?
Yes.
100 billion per annum. I think this is bold, this is courageous, this is visionary. And the Dangote Group has said this has to do with the Vision 2030 strategy of the Dangote Group. Now, let me point attention to something. Once upon a time in this country, we used to have technical education. There was something they called City and Guilds. Nigeria trained bricklayers, trained technicians, trained auto electricians, but we lost it. We got to a stage whereby we now have to go and borrow people from Ghana, Republic of Benin, and Togo to have technical staff, or we go all the way to India. So there's technical staff involved in this. There's training for girls. Our girls, many of them are out of school. There's training in STEM, in terms of emphasis, you know, and then there's teacher training. These are very strategic areas that Dangote has plugged into. Indeed. And I think it should be encouraged. And I think the support of both the private sector, others, and also the government, you know, should be guaranteed in this particular regard. This is a major development, and I think we should support it. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to the Dangote Foundation and to Alhaji Aliko Dangote himself. Thank you, Adefemi. And hopefully this matter will be resolved in Ijebu and Ogun State.